Difference between implicit conversion and explicit conversion. When we convert a lower data type to a higher data type, we call this as implicit conversion, or it is also called as type coercion. This is automatically done by the compiler. And what is explicit conversion? When you force the compiler to convert from a higher data type to lower data type, it is called as explicit conversion. And this is also called as typecasting. This is not done by the compiler, but it is done by the programmer. We have to force the higher data type to be converted to lower one. So what is this higher data type and lower data type? Let me show you a table. The integral data types are byte, short, int, and long. Byte, short, int, and long can store only whole numbers. And the space occupied by byte is 1 byte. Short is 2 bytes, int is 4 bytes, and long is 8 bytes. So whenever we declare a variable of integral type, we can only store whole numbers, not point values. If we take floating, there are two data types, float and double. Float occupies 4 bytes and double occupies 8 bytes. And 6 is the precision. What is precision? After the point value, 6 digits is taken by float. 15 to 16 digits, double occupies. So double can store or take up to 15 to 16 digits after the decimal point. Character, 2 bytes, and Boolean is 1 byte. So this is the order in which the space is occupied in the memory. So let me give you an example. We have two variables. I declare an integer variable a and I take 6. I'm going to declare a float variable b, which is going to store 6.3, suffix with f. Now I want to print a into b. So what is the answer going to be? 6 into 6.3 will give you 37.80003. This is the answer which is going to be printed when you compile this program. Let me show you the answer. 37.80003. What has happened in this line? Integer value gets multiplied with float. So when an integer and float is getting multiplied, the answer will be of float, because float is a higher data type compared to integer. Of course, both integer and float takes 4 bytes. Integer takes 4 bytes, float also takes 4 bytes. But the precision of float, that is a point value. After the point, 6 digits are taken by float. So float is compared to integer, it is higher. Float compared to integer is higher because it takes 6 digits as a precision. Now coming to the example. This is the example for implicit conversion. So what happened in implicit conversion? The lower data type got converted to higher data type. So this is an example of implicit conversion. Now let me give you an example of explicit conversion. So I take the same example, system.out.println a into b. But we know the answer is going to be sure 37.80003. But I want the answer to be in integer. So I want float to be converted to integer. So the higher data type should be converted to lower data type. So what are we going to do here? We are going to force it. And how are we going to do that? Before the expression, within the bracket, we have to mention the data type which has to be converted to. Now this A into B will give you a point value, but I don't want the point value as the answer. I want the whole number. So I want to convert to integer. Now when I convert this to integer, the expression, if I convert to integer, the answer is going to be whatever is before the point. Whatever is going to be before the point. But here I have A into B. This A into B should be given within the bracket. Because according to the Bodmer's rule, whatever is in the bracket will be calculated first and then it will be converted to integer. If I don't use the bracket, what happens? A by default is an integer. So A alone will be converted to integer, which is not going to be converted because by default A is an integer. So we have to use the bracket. Use the bracket so that A into B is first multiplied. 6 into 6.3 is calculated first. And then the answer will be converted to integer. So now the answer is going to be 37. How? Whatever is before the point will be the answer. So A is 6, B is 6.3. When you multiply both, you get 36.80003. But because we are converting to integer, it will just print whatever is before the point. And that is going to be 37. So this is an example of explicit conversion.